Welcome to the Dance Science Podcast. I'm your host, the Dance Scientist, and the Dance Science Podcast intends to build connections and drive discussion on how we can improve our field and make dance science more normalized. Thank you for being here, and please enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. Thank you again for being here with me today. I'm your host, the Dance Scientist, and today is episode number 33. We're going to have our 18th guest speaker, which is pretty amazing. His name is Nick, and he is an energy strategist. So first, thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm really excited for this.
Hi, Maria, and thank you very much for the invitation.
Yes.
Again, I'm super excited as well. So we have something in common already beside dancing and our love for dance.
Yes, and building these connections, from people across the world is like the best thing that we get to do, right? Is having these chats.
Absolutely agree on that. No more words necessary. Yes. We can stop right here.
Yes, done. So first, can you tell us a little bit about becoming an energy strategist?
That's actually a term I came up with within the last couple of months. So quite recently, as I figured out that throughout my dance career, I can come to that a little bit in more detail later. I was able to learn different skills or different characteristics or personality traits that for normal people out there in the world is basically something extraordinary. But we subconsciously or on the second line next to the technical skills and the performing skills in dancing, we learn them, and they are super beneficial for the next generation or helping other people to achieve the same, their maximum. So what I'm trying to do what I'm actually currently doing with dancers and also with people across the field of business, I'm handing them strategies in order to influence proactively their energy level in order to perform better in whatever field they want to perform in.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like performance enhancement.
If you want to say so, yeah.
Because that's kind of the term I see used in the United States a little bit more. It's like more of a performance enhancement. So would you say that that's like a pretty good term to generalize it a little bit?
Yeah, let's go with this one.
Yeah. And so we know that dancers are athletes, right? So are you helping them with like the nutritional side or or is it like a little bit of, is it mental too? Is it kind of like a hybrid?
I would say it's a hybrid, totally. Thanks, Maria, for that. It's very little of nutritional advice, as I'm not an expert in this field, but I know experts in this field. So it's, again, my network that I can bring to the table as well. Me personally, I have several educational programs and certificates, like a master's degree in sports sciences, for example. So I studied this one, and then more than 15 years of elite sport background myself in highly competitive ballroom and Latin dancing. I also experienced almost all different kind of dance styles out of curiosity. Wow. And I'm a nationally certified athletic, like strength and conditioning coach here in Austria, in Central Europe, where I'm from. So I'm more of the physical as well as the mental side, because body and mind, they kind of not only interfere, but influence each other.
Right. You can't really separate the two. Right? Yeah. Especially with dancers. Yes.
Yeah, true.
Because we know that, they also need mental skills, right? Just as much as they need technical strength.
And most of the time, unfortunately, what I'm able to observe nowadays is that people focus a lot about on how to train their bodies, how to become even more precise in their technique and the coordination of the body elements, but they tend to forget kind of
very much
about the mental preparation. So the strongest muscle we need to emphasize our focus on is our brain. Yeah. So train your mind, your body will follow.
Yes. And I do see it kind of as like a second thought sometimes. Yeah, when it really should be part of like their training from day one, they can build mental skills from a young age even.
And especially if they're like tired, or if they are injured. There's like lots of dance injuries, and you might confirm with that. So in the meantime, it's not like you can't do nothing and you suddenly have a social life again. It's more like maybe you want to use the time to use techniques like visualization in order to go through different movement patterns or choreography parts or whatever. So yeah, there's a lot of potential laying on the floor, and you just need to pick it up.
Like more of a somatics approach sometimes, blending the somatics with the science is what I've been reading a lot lately too. Is like merging the two, which is kind of what you're saying, the body and the mind.
Interesting.
Everything as a hybrid. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about your journey in dance and, what led you onto this path?
Actually, I as I remember myself from a very young age, I loved music, and I still love music, and I love moving to music. So this naturally became dancing for me. And from a very, very young age, I had to go to a ballet class, as my younger sister wasn't in the mood to stay there on her own. So I kind of had to accompany her. So that was my first little professional steps, was ballet actually. Then I tapped into rock and roll and boogie. Later on hip hop with only girls. So I learned a lot of even, let's say, more feminine movements in a teenage years. Then I came to breaking, locking, popping, like more the urban dance styles. And there's a big tradition of balls. I mean, everybody or almost everybody knows the Vienna Opera Ball. It's the world's most famous ball event. And therefore, in Vienna, it's quite common to go to a social dancing school where you learn like the cha-cha-cha, and the waltz, and the tango, etc. So I kind of fell into that by not by accident, but by tradition. And from there, I took the path of Latin formation, show dancing, and from this show perspective, it got more serious. And we discovered that there's competitions as well. So we prepared for that. We founded a dance sport club. We built this from scratch. And I spent most of my active dancing years in focusing on Latin American dance sport, but also ballroom dancing. And stopped actively competing with COVID back in 2020. And since then, I switched my focus even more, because I've been teaching basically since like half my life. I would say I'm now 35. Since 16, 17, I started teaching people in dancing socially and then even competitively. And after I switched focus in contributing the extra curricular activities that you need to kind of take into consideration in order to have your tool set ready. As the painter needs his brush, you kind of need your body ready and your mind in order to use it as a tool to interpret music. And so I want to help people, as I had lots of injuries myself, not to face the same consequences, but to go into a better direction.
Yes. And I'm curious, we'll talk about this a little bit more in part 2, but I'm curious, when you work with like the performance enhancement stuff and like the strength and conditioning side, do you work more with like collegiate dancers? Like what is kind of like the age level that you're working with? Or would you say it's like a blend?
It's mainly, I would say, teenagers or late teenagers to mid-end 20-year-olds. So there's very little over 30 years of age that I'm working with, as both Latin and ballroom dancing is quite common to do after social dancing school. So with the age of 16, 17, I even started with 19, 20 to like compete. So quite late in comparison to Russia, for example, where they start with before they can even walk, they're dancing already. So I do help kids. My youngest athlete in a one-on-one mentoring, currently she's 16 and she's competing on world and European championship level in her youth category. And the oldest person that I'm currently working with is around 30 years of age.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, you have a mix.
Yeah, true.
Which I think it gives you a different perspective too. So I'm excited to hear how you kind of like offer your services, you know, if it's more of like a master class or if you do like privates. I'm really interested in hearing that too.
Should we come to that later,
Yes,
or should I?
we'll piggyback
Okay.
back to that question, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So one other thing that I was thinking is, how do you kind of see this progressing the big picture of dance science, dance medicine, or just dance?
Me personally, I started, I think 2 years ago, we started to build a network of dance medical experts, physiotherapists, therapists, and sports scientists, or dance scientists in a way, in the German-speaking countries. So basically all over Austria, and having links to Switzerland and Germany. To be completely fair, you're my first overseas contact, which I highly appreciate in that manner, because I feel that there's it's increasing the interest and focus on the topic, on the field, but at the same time there's too little scientific evidence for it. And I'm personally, as I have a master study degree, okay, fair enough, but I'm more the practical type of guy. So I want to give people something they can immediately use.
Me too.
And I'm not so much into like reading scientific papers.
Okay, I am.
So it's fascinating that there's like worlds not colliding, but joint venturing together. From like sports sciences, physiotherapy, or even dance studies. And the more data comes to the table, the better the evidence is, in order to prove and show to people, here there is proof that you gotta do this and that, although it might not be funny, and you just came here for dancing, but if you want to do it sustainably and effectively for over a long period of time, and not only between your injuries, then just please pay attention.
And, you know, that's interesting, because you were saying that you feel like in Austria, there's not much hub with dance science, right? Is that what you were saying?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, we started a network, and there is some people, especially now with, breaking going to the Olympics this year in Paris. This made a huge boost as a nitro engine thing with a car race to the dance sciences, especially in the urban dance styles. And I think other dance forms will benefit from that as well. At the same time, I feel it's sometimes still really grassroots level in comparison to other fields of sports sciences, for example.
Yeah, I mean, it really is interesting, because really every part of the world has progressed at a different rate when it comes to dance science, right? I mean, it really is just so varied, you know?
How is it in the United States?
The United States, I would feel like maybe it's a little bit further ahead now that you were describing Austria a little bit. But again, it's one place will be like this, and then 20 minutes north will be totally different, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like it's totally consistent, but there are areas that have definitely improved. I mean, yeah.
And I feel, what I perceive from my outside perspective, that you contributed a lot to the awareness level, and people how do you say that in English? People seeing the importance of your work through your work. So thank you for that. In the name of all the dancers listening to this podcast, or people involved in dancing and teaching, or even in scientific fields, thank you for what you're doing, Maria.
Thank you so much. Yeah, because I mean, I know I'm a nerd, and I know I like to read the research, but I also do try to be practical with things too. I try to really narrow things down for people and really dwindle it down to simple teaching tips.
And that's awesome, because this bridge needs to be built more often, and you're doing great work with that. Thank you.
Yeah, because it's, realistically, it's like how many educators are reading a 10-page article on,
fair enough,
on, physiological threshold, Probably not.
Yeah, you better break it down like a big piece of bread. You need to break it down in small little crumbs,
bites,
and feed it to the masses.
Because I'm like, if they go away with one take home, like a goodie bag, going home with a goodie bag, one special thing in your goodie bag.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So what advice would you give a student interested in pursuing your field?
if my field is considered like, let's say, energy strategist, performance enhancement, high performance, peak performance, I would say you gotta do the homework in terms of you need to understand the field you're actually moving in, and this means you have to do dancing, because I experience lots of people now with this Olympic movement in urban dance styles. I also helped building the federation, and there was people coming from outside with like no experience of dancing whatsoever, but they kind of wanted to contribute, and it's super hard if you have expert knowledge on strength and conditioning or mental training, but you have no clue how it feels to actually do the movements or to dance in general. So do your kilometers on the dance floor, in the dance studio, in your training facility, whatever. Number one. Number two, try to find your good mix between scientifically evidence-based knowledge, like the data, collect data sets, as well as experience. We had that in number one.
Yeah.
And get in touch with others. I have lots of times the feeling that people tend to do their training, their dancing behind curtains, so other people can't like copy them or steal something from them.
Yeah.
And the more, it's actually the other way around. The more we start to connect with other people,
yes.
we get more and different perspectives on our own dancing, and
more.
this will help dramatically in your competence and your level of expertise later on, if you actually want to help others, because you connected with lots of people and you have different perspectives to bring to the table.
And, that brings up another thing, too. So you completed, like, a certification, right, in your strength and conditioning? Is that correct? Is that how it is done in Austria? Yeah. So a certification through like, an organization, right?
Nationally appreciated or nationally certified institution. And this is the only one in Austria. So you can do, like, lots of different courses, but you have one thing that is kind of from the government and financially supported as well. And you do this one. I have this in dance sport and in strength and conditioning. So two of those took me over 10 years.
I was going to say, it probably took you a long time, and, it probably took a lot of time and effort and money, because I don't know if it's like that in Austria, but in the United States, there's been like this weird trend lately where there's a lot of like day certifications that you can get. Not even you could even finish them in like 2 hours, and you can become a nutrition coach, and you can become a performance coach. And it's really interesting, because it's like, is it really, really quality if you're doing it in a couple hours? Because it's just a quick, it's just...
I highly appreciate you saying interesting, as I perceive it as a euphemism for questionable,
yes.
But long term, I truly and deeply believe that quality will find its way. So even if you do like a weekend course in something, and another person did deep dive education for many, many months or years, paired with personal experience and self development, then who are you going to go to?
Yeah.
If you start asking questions as a dancer, for example, you come to somebody and you start asking questions, and you get that feeling of, okay, that person tells me something, but this is kind of like, doesn't feel authentic, or doesn't feel like really with a foundation underneath. So you kind of feel the shallowness of the water. Then you might not want to jump head over heels into that water.
Yeah, because I think if people are interested in this field, I think it's really important that they research the organization that they're gonna get educated in.
I'm super happy that even though a big ocean is separating the two of us, that we agree on lots of points already. Yeah.
Because just because people see a 1-day certification, for X amount of dollars, it doesn't necessarily mean it's quality, right?
Yeah,
no,
true.
For sure. So what have you learned that you wish you knew as a young dancer? I love this question. Everyone loves this.
Do the warm-up properly. And warm-up is not shaking your head twice and properly dressing up. It's like there's a specific order in which you can do things in order to most beneficially pay into the account of doing your dance in the most healthy way, let's say. As we know that everything that you do to an extreme, and dancing can be extreme lots of times, even if it's in an art form on stage or as a highly competitive sport, then you need to prepare your tools properly. So please do that one, and cool down as well. So the frame you set determines on how beautiful the picture on the wall looks.
I love all of your little imagery and like analogies, because it's just bringing it to life for me. So do you usually use like the ramp protocol for your warm-ups, or just like you promote dynamic stretching, dynamic warm-ups and stuff like that?
I'm basically a big fan of bringing your heart rate up in the first place. So that can be with like walking, running, jumping on the spot, running on the spot, or something that just like gives you like a energy boost and brings also the mind into the hall as well. So some people come from their daily life, school, university, jobs, and you need to have that transition. If it hadn't happened in the changing room, then latest in that first phase of the warm-up. So you do that, you bring the heart rate up, and you have your cardiovascular system running. After that, I'm a big fan of mobilization. Could be dynamic stretching, or some kind of swing movements. And you start like a crepe. This French candy kind of stuff, where they put the duff for that in the middle of the pan, and then you kind of make the circles bigger. So you start in a very small and narrow movements, and then you go in a wider range and try to reach in a full range of motion in the end. So you kind of help the joints with the liquid in order to be like running smoothly afterwards.
And then something else that I usually get asked by a lot of people is, how long do you usually think a warm-up should be? And then what if a class is a little bit, what if the class is a little shorter and they don't have 20 minutes? It's a realistic question.
That's true. If it's a dance class in a studio and they usually have like time slots like similar to school schedules, then I would personally highly recommend to be a little bit early and start warming up in the hallway or in some like small little space outside of that dance hall, in case that's possible. I usually tend to say, who wants will find a way, and who doesn't want will find excuses.
I love that.
So please just find a way. Where's a will, there's a way. It's like a German saying, might sound a little bit weird in English.
No, but it totally makes sense what you're saying. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, to answer your question properly, according to duration, I am a big fan, as I usually try to start with music already, to play like a 2 to 3 minute song, at least. This is like ultimate minimum for the first phase of this cardiovascular increase, pumping up the heart rate. Another 2 to 3 minutes, maybe even 2 songs, depending on what comes after. So you need to, like in the mobilization part, or even the warm-up is not done after mobilizing your joints. You can have like 2 to 3 songs. I would say 10 minutes minimum. And this is usually what I experience from honest dancers when I give workshops in dance sport clubs or studios. It's like, who does like a proper warm-up? Okay, some people think like, okay, what's a proper warm-up? More than 5 minutes. Then you have like half the class lowering their hands, and then he's like, okay, more than 10 minutes. And 1 or 2 people usually keep their hands up. So
I mean, it's good that they're being honest.
At least honest. I mean, that's good.
It's a good place to start, right? And then you can kind of dig in and give them strategies. Yeah. So wrapping up part 1, if you had to offer, one little tidbit of wisdom to our audience, what do you think that would be?
Go towards your decisions that you make as an active dancer with the perspective of how you would like your future dancers to feel like when you coach them. So be your own little coach or teacher in a way that not always, especially in classes or in groups, focuses on you, but the only person who is always with you is yourself. So get some consciousness. Listen to your inner voice, what your body wants to tell you, because that's quite a good sign, actually. That's quite a good reference. And we tend to overlook that and just do what we got to do because we think that somebody expects us to do that. Listen to your inner voice. And do the things that you would like your dancers in the future to do in case you are into teaching. And if you're not into teaching because you say, no, I'm just dancing for myself, then imagine what if you were a teacher, what advice would you give to other people?
Yeah, and I think that's good wisdom because teachers do, I mean, I feel this pressure sometimes of like, oh, we gotta do X, Y, and Z. You know, I have to teach this, this, and this. They have to be able to this skill, this skill, this skill. And it can feel pressuring, sometimes overwhelming. It's like should that really be the priority, is just crossing, you know, filling in the bubble, crossing off the next thing like a checklist? Is it really about a checklist or is it more about the experience, right?
And I think it's super important. So I want to highlight what you just mentioned. It's the path, the way that it's the journey. It's about the trip. It's about the journey, not about the goal. The goal is just another milestone on the way, because if you reach that goal, you have the path continues. You're going further. It's like a long hiking trip.
Yes. I love this. Thank you so much for part 1. All right, everyone, welcome back to part 2. Now we're going to be talking a little bit more specifically about what he does and the services that he offers. And then remember, all of this will be listed on my website for you guys to make it really, really easy for you guys to look at and read. So first, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do as an energy strategist? Maybe something that you didn't mention in part 1?
Basically, what I love to do with dancers, and I have both very art-oriented dancers in my portfolio, if you want to say in this way, and very sports and competition-oriented dancers. What I love to do is an holistic approach. So I perceive the person as a whole, like a whole system, and then we need to figure out and analyze in the first step, where is the part that they actually want different? What are they bothered with? What are their current challenges? And what of those, because usually there's like a couple problems. It's not like just one thing they want to change, but they're like, people lots of times know what they don't want, but they're not so sure about what they really want. So this is the part 1 of analyzing and finding out, getting to know each other, and then to individually decide where to start, because there's different buttons you can push, and sometimes if you push that one specific button in the start, some others get solved automatically. So I'm a big fan of working on mindset in terms of the mental preparation, not only for big happenings, but how you talk to yourself, how you approach training or your dancing. Because honestly speaking, how much of like in percentage, how much are you spending on stage or on the competition floor, and how much time do you spend with yourself somewhere practicing? So you better enjoy the practice,
enjoy that,
and enjoy life while dancing, and those little peaks are like the tip of the iceberg above water. So I love to do mindset first, examining where we can start enhancing the body structure, or where we can hop in with the strength and conditioning part. Is it endurance? Is it speed? Is it agility? Is it flexibility? Or is it strength maybe in some different parts? And most of the times there's parts that have too much power and there's parts that are lacking that one. So we need to kind of rebalance the whole system in order to make it work more efficiently.
And, you know, you're kind of speaking to like the biopsychosocial model, you know, how I view everything too is like a pie chart, one big pie chart, not just, you know, like you were saying, not one thing wrong on the pie chart, but yeah, there's probably going to be things influencing each other.
And the third big, let's say, part of that triangle for me is training structure and training planning. because what you can learn from other sports, which are executed highly professional, in a highly professional way, is that they have a plan, and they also have a documentation, so you kind of can analyze later on what happened, what was supposed to happen, and why did XYZ did not happen, what I wished that could have happened, but I did the wrong thing, or I didn't do what was planned to do, or should I change the plan in order to achieve different results?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's the same in Austria, but in the United States, it's not common for dancers to periodize or taper. You know,
Same.
It's very uncommon. Yeah. Only a few professional companies, I would say, at this point.
Usually when I start working on training planning with dancers, they are like, but this is the most important competition, or this is the highlight of my whole year, or not to say my whole life. How dare you take away the dance hours in the weeks before, as you mentioned, tapering? How dare you? And I was like, well, we got to try with another competition beforehand if that is the method that works for you, because luckily we are very, very individual and we need to have specific tools for each and every one.
Yeah. One thing isn't going to work for every single dancer. Yeah.
And that leads to the fact that there is no blueprint. So if somebody out there offers you the solution, then probably they are the ones that did like the weekend course or education because they don't know better. And I'm not judging them because they just don't know better, or they try to make some quick money out of you. But if somebody really cares, then they'll find an individual solution for each and everyone.
And then, you know, something else that we struggle with in the U.S. is, you know, the stereotype around like female dancers, you know, looking for that lean physique, right? And they're apprehensive to strength train. They're apprehensive to lift weights, right? They don't want to bulk up.
But that's the thing.
It's not going to happen.
This is like a big myth, right?
It's not going to happen.
You're not going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger just because you lifted weight once.
Like it takes so much time for a female to even get to that point.
Especially because of high estrogen level and very low testosterone levels in comparison to
long. Yeah,
you're not designed to bulk up naturally unless you use some you know, like semi-legal help, but we're not referring to that now.
No. Yeah, and then, you know, I point my dancers, I look at them, I show them Misty Copeland sometimes, because I'm not sure if you know Misty Copeland, but she is a little bit more muscular. I don't know her, but I can imagine what image you're referring to her now. Like strong, muscular. She's done a lot of sponsors for like Nike and Adidas and stuff like that. But yeah, she's muscular, but she just carries it well, and you can tell she's just very, very physically strong, right? But doesn't look bulky, right? So true. It's an interesting thing that we struggle with. And I don't know, is it like that in Austria with female dancers?
I perceive in as I have insight in different dance disciplines, in urban dance styles, it's different, as most of the dancers just try to look cool, no matter what sex or age or profession or religious background. They just wanna, you know, cope with the culture that comes with like hip hop or urban dance. At the same time, Latin and ballroom is super stereotypical in terms of in Latin dancing, the lady needs to be fragile and sensitive and very sexual and very, very, you know, like classy to a way, or sometimes very vulgar, and you can only switch between those. But you're like the woman, as in the old traditional perception of how things were, unfortunately, a couple of decades or even centuries ago. And as a man, you need to be the macho, the Latino in a way, like, you know, strong and very dominant and stuff. And I mean, you can differentiate whether people try to play that role, or there's something inside of them they can identify with. And so there comes that individual part. So for me, unfortunately, I observe lots of times that there is those social roles that are kind of placed upon the dance world. But as things change in society, I think things will change step by step in dancing as well.
Yeah, that's why, like for the United States, Misty Copeland was a big deal, to see her in professional companies. Yeah, and she's like all over.
I will actually look her up after the recording, just to like fill that gap of knowledge.
She's everywhere, yeah. She's everywhere. She's gorgeous. So what is some of your favorite parts of doing this? We'll go with that question next.
A favorite part of doing like
being an energy strategist, like what's one of the things that really like lights you up with this?
I usually tend to say whether I work with people that have like life challenges or want to enhance their business performance, or in this case it's now today about sports and dancing. I really love to inspire people by turning on the light inside of me and inspire them to actually do the same with them. So that's why I give strategies. I don't motivate them. You could say, Nick has a very high energy and he goes there and he's like enthusiastic and stuff. But I don't want to motivate anyone, because that means that you don't know where you go, because motivation comes from having a motive. You have that kind of star on the sky showing you the direction. I can help you with that as well. But if you have this, then it's your responsibility to actually focus on it and go for it. I can give you strategies on how to walk your way. In the end of the day, the walking, or to be more specific in this dance podcast, the dancing is your job.
I think that's interesting too, that you want them to self-motivate themselves, right? Is that basically what you were saying? Yeah. It's more sustainable. Yeah. You don't want to motivate them because I really like that, because they're not going to train with you for the rest of their lives. So what are they going to do after that?
And I don't want to keep them my clients or people I'm working with, because then I don't have time to work with somebody else. So I give them the tools.
Yes.
I show them how to apply them. They'll find their own way within the working with me.
Yeah.
And after, I'm more than happy for them to leave, or to even hand further this knowledge in their specific social environment. So I have lots of actually coaches that I coach, kind of like coach the coach or mentor the coach kind of thing, because this is a multiplicator.
And they're also, I'm just kind of thinking for a second. That also is probably translating into other dance environments that they're taking it in when you're teaching them those self-motivating skills, right? Any dance environment that they take those skills into, whether it's teaching, dancing, coaching, even just sports coaching, right? Those skills are going to kind of layer into everything that they do.
And they gather lots of nice soft skills for their later or parallel life, like work-wise. Whatever you want to do, you can take lots of things that we naturally kind of, under exclamation marks, naturally learn in dancing. You can apply to your life in any kind of way.
Yeah, it layers into just, being a human, right? Any career will be amplified from dance skills.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And even socially, you can benefit in your family, your friends' environment, from the social skills that you automatically get when you dance, unless you are like every time your whole dancing career alone in a room with yourself.
That would be sad.
Sorry for you, but then just please find a class or people that you can, or open the door and somebody will walk in by chance.
Yeah, find a community. So what are some of your challenges with doing this work?
As this is kind of one of my passions, or let's say this project or this activity comes from the heart. It's not like I'm full-time involved in doing this. This is not my full-time profession. I have a employment situation going on. I'm self-employed myself. I'm starting to build businesses, and this is basically a passion project that I'm doing on the side to provide a framework for people that I hadn't had when I was in their situation. So this is probably one of the challenges, as my time and energy is a limited source, and I don't get a lot of things in return for that time and energy that I put in, as I know that usually dancers don't have money.
Yeah.
I don't know about the situation in the US, but...
it's the same. It's from what I know, at least.
As they usually don't have the consciousness that this is super important.
Right.
They're not willing to invest in themselves.
Because they can barely afford groceries, some of them, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, basic human needs. Yeah.
True. So this might be one of the challenges as well, beside my own like timetable and life structure. That there is we need to create the awareness of the importance, because this will save lots of money and especially time, because money is infinite.
Right.
People just tend to perceive money as something very limited, because they might not have a lot of money right now. But we spend our time as we have unlimited supply of time. But basically it's the other way around. We just have a limited amount of time in our lives. We don't know how much. That's the interesting, also scary sometimes, but interesting part about it. But money, if we just look from an outside perspective on this world, is there's like an infinite amount of money here.
And it will come and go. Yeah.
Yeah, please guys, and this is my challenge also, to create consciousness and awareness of the fact that use your money wisely, use your time even more wisely, and have the consciousness to be in the moment. Don't regret what happened in the past. Just now, if you hear that podcast of the Dance Scientist podcast, please, if that just creates a little spark in you, some resonation, then go for it and do something different, and you'll create automatically different results in the future.
And I love that. And one more thing that I would like to circle back to, if you would be so kind to share, is kind of going back to like, how do you offer your services? Are they more like private based for your sports training?
So what I do is most of the time I do remote work in terms of online training, which has the limitation of not being able to physically touch somebody and to help like with the kinesthetic learning types in order to make them feel what you want to do. But as with the years of the pandemic, I kind of, as everybody, had to adapt on how we work. And this gives me the freedom to also help people across the globe. So I'm working online. In the moment, I'm dealing with groups. Like I have the Latin Formation Vice World Champions that I'm their athletic coach of the whole dance sport club, also the other teams. I'm dealing with the urban dance crew, and I do most of this stuff remotely. Sometimes, and especially if they're like in Central Europe and they're easily accessible for me, we do on-site sessions as well, because I have a different
experience,
striking power when I'm on site. I can give them harder times in order to make the future times easier for them, as I have more control of what's really happening. But everybody who is interested in learning more about it is more than welcome to get in touch with me and just ask. And that might need some bravery in the beginning. So just be brave and open your mouth and ask the question, and I'm super happy to get in touch with you and help out in case I can.
Yeah, and like I said, all this information will be listed on my website too. Because, I think that's probably like one positive thing that came from the pandemic is now we're so more accessible with how things are offered, right? And we connect, we have these connections a little bit easier overseas, right? You can coach someone in the US with no issues.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, as people might have heard, English is not my mother tongue, but I perceive myself as decent enough to transport what I want to say and to understand what is being said to me. So feel free to get in touch via the Dance Scientist or directly with me. And I'm more than happy to help more people in terms of giving workshops, online presentations, or online live training workshops for groups, as well as individual training where we can go more in depth on an individual basis.
Yes. So everyone, please check out his information. Like I said, I'll list all of his website, because he also has like a free discovery call, right? I think I saw that on your form.
Yeah, definitely.
Free discovery call. Yeah. So like I said, I'll link all of that info below. So thank you so much for being here with me today, Nick. All right, taking some time to summarize today's amazing episode with Nick. First, I just want to thank Nick for his time today. And now we're just going to quickly summarize some of the things that we talked about today. We talked about finding a good quality certification if you're interested in this field. It's really important that you find an organization that is highly, highly, highly educated, right? And is going to offer you the best knowledge and, the most scientifically based knowledge. We also talked about that dancers are high-level athletes, okay? We know, obviously, dancers are always working on improving their technique, right? They want more strength. They want more this. They want more flexibility, right? They want more this, that. They want a higher leg. They want more turnout, right? They want more turns. But also, what's also playing a role here all the time, whether we realize it or not, is those mental skills, right? How dancers are talking to themselves, how dancers are visualizing, right? What do they want their pirouette to look like? What do they want their leap to look like on that right side? What do they want it to look like on their left side, right? And so again, Nick was offering a lot of those practical strategies on how it really is a hybrid and it really is a whole body approach that he uses with his dancers. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of the Dance Science Podcast. I'm your host, the Dance Scientist, and if you really enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to either leave a review, you can also comment on the episode, and you can also send me a direct message right on Instagram. Again, thank you for being here with me today, and I look forward to see you in my next episode.